Hey guys, Cameron here with Emerson Property Management. Every week I bring you tools, tactics, strategies, lessons I've learned, things that have helped me build up a sizable loan portfolio in about 2 years and now manage that portfolio. Today, y'all, I want to talk about tenant payment reversals. So if you have ever had a tenant's payment reverse, it is extremely problematic. You're kind of behind the eight ball. Maybe they reverse multiple months. We have had that happen. So today I'm going to talk about some strategies and things to do to prevent tenant payment reversals. Before I do that, y'all, if you guys find this stuff valuable, please like, subscribe, share, only if you find it valuable. If you have feedback, you can put that comment below. Appreciate the constructive feedback. So, payment reversals, tenant payment reversals on my handy dandy whiteboard here. So unless you're accepting cash, which I really do not recommend, when you're collecting rent, you should have some sort of a way to process that. You want to keep tabs of that, make sure. We actually had an eviction case one time where the owner accepted cash. It wasn't the full amount, obviously, but they couldn't prove it because there was no paper trail and the tenant got out of the eviction. So it's very important that you have some way to track this. And again, it can be something as simple as Zelle. I know there are owners that if you just have one rental property, you just have the tenants Zelle you. Or it can be something more complex like a property management system like we use, which would be like a Buildium, an Appfolio, a larger property management system. And a lot of those property management systems do the accounting and do the payment processing, collecting rents and whatnot, and allocating that to the proper property. So unless you're working on one of these larger platforms, which even if you are, so if you're an owner who has just one, or you're working with a property management company that has a payment processing facility, or you have 10, 20, 30 doors, and you're using your own kind of property management or rent collection software, these are going to be applicable. So first and foremost, and these are kind of in no real particular order, but the first thing, and I've talked about this in the past, but you have to get certified move-in funds. Never take anything other than certified move-in funds unless it's been several weeks. So cashier's check, money order, those are the only things. If a tenant wants to move in next week, those are the only things it will take because electronic payments can bounce. They can accidentally enter wrong account numbers. So first and foremost, before you get a tenant into your property, make sure before you hand them the keys that they have given you certified funds. That's the first thing. If it's months, if it's a month out and they're holding the property, you can go through your payment processing system or whatever you feel more comfortable with. But if it's days or weeks, it'll have to, determine on what you determine for your state area, how you're collecting that. But that's the first thing. You do not want anybody getting that property and give them keys unless you receive certified funds. Okay, the second thing, though, is review your payment processing vendor, owner, or the company's payment processing details. Now, I had to learn this one the hard way because we had a tenant who moved in, paid rent, everything was peachy keen. And about month 3, she reversed every single payment she had paid us. So she reversed the monthly rent for 3 months, totaling like $6,000 or $7,000. And we had no idea what was going on. We just saw a huge payment reversal, and then it was payment reversal for rent for January, December, November, and it was subsequent months for this same tenant. So we immediately got on with Buildium, tried to resolve this, and basically Buildium kicked the buck to the payment processing company. Now, if I would have known this ahead of time and understood this piece, I could have been a little bit better prepared. We might have done some things differently on the front end, but mostly, at least when this happens, what you can do, who you can contact, who you need to contact. So it was kind of several weeks of us running around trying to get a hold of people and figure out who to talk to, waiting on hold, all that nonsense. So if you're doing this on Zelle, I think Zelle's guaranteed funds, but if you're doing this on anything else or you have a larger payment processing application or software, make sure you understand. Call them and just say, how can a tenant or how can anybody reverse a payment on this? What happens if they say this is fraudulent? What happens? How do I get my money back? How can I get to say, no, it's not fraudulent. Here's a signed lease. They reverse 3 months of payments. Nope, here's my signed lease agreement. Give me that money back. So make sure you understand that honestly up front. It doesn't happen very often, but when it does happen, it's always around the holidays, a cataclysmic time, and you're running around like a chicken with his head cut off because you don't know what's going on. And again, when this came up, when our big issue came up, and it was $7,000 of rents, it was a substantial issue because we collected rents. And again, here, if you're working with a management company, if it's going right into your bank and you see it come out, that's unfortunate and that sucks. But when you have a management company that's paying out to a bunch of owners and we've already paid you your money and then it's reversed, that's when things get really, really, really hairy. So if you ever have a management company that has this happen, I'm not saying be sympathetic to them, but understand that it can be a complex thing to get resolved because of the fraud and fraud prevention. I want to make sure there's no fraud. So understand that going in. What do I have to do if a tenant reverses payments? Call them, figure out, look at the fine print, figure out what you have to do or who you need to contact. Number 3, credit check. Now this seems so easy and so simple, but what happens? So if you cannot get those funds back, let's just say you can't, for whatever reason, the payment processor you're using says, sorry, those are gone, poof. What can you do? Well, what you can do is, like you normally would when a tenant doesn't pay rent, is you file a notice to vacate. And you say, okay, you have 3 days to resolve the issue. If you don't resolve the issue, we're gonna evict you. Now, a lot of the times these fraudsters will then leave. If you start that, they'll leave the property. They don't want to go to a judge and start dealing with anything around courts and legal stuff. So you just handle it like a normal, or should I say this is not, I'm not your property manager, but how we would do it and how I would recommend or suggest, maybe that's a better word to keep me out of legal battle. I would suggest that you go through your normal notice to vacate and eviction process. So that's what we did and got this individual out of the property. We did not recover the rents, but we got her out and now she has an eviction or a huge judgment on her credit. So when you go to run a credit report, you will see, hopefully if you're running a good one, you will see if they did anything shady, if they have an outstanding balance from a apartment complex. And so when we filed that, if the next company or whoever the next company is would run a credit check, they would see that Emerson Property Management filed, the balance, the outstanding balance against that applicant. So that's the way to do it, or another way to keep this out. So you make sure you get certified funds from the tenant before they move into your property, especially if it's a quick move in. Get certified funds. Number 2, review your payment processing. Make sure that you understand what the process is like so you're not running around like a scalded dog when you've lost $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 in rent. And number 3, another pound of or an ounce of prevention's worth a pound of cure, as they say. Get a credit check done when you guys are doing your screening process. We've got a video up here talks about all of our application screening process. Done that several times to share all that. We also have that free on our website, but make sure you're doing a credit check to prevent these dirtbags from getting into your property. I hope that was helpful. If it was, let me know. If it wasn't, let me know. And hopefully this prevents or helps you mitigate having any issues with tenant payment reversals. Take care, y'all.